PapaKennVians, PapaKenn here, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discovering Torchwood. The episode I'm going to be talking about today is Small Worlds, and I'm just going to come right out and say it. I think that, of the 5 episodes that I've watched so far, this may be my favorite one. This episode was just overall excellently executed. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to sound strange to some people or what, but at this point, Small Worlds, honestly, I think it is the most solid episode that I've watched so far. Now, I do have some annoyances that I'll mention, but other than those, I honestly can't think of any issues that I had with this episode. But before I get into those, let's start with my favorite parts of this episode. Starting with the old lady investigator, who we later find out is named Estelle, and at the very beginning when she finds these fairies, or I thought maybe they were pixies, but we obviously later find out that they think that they're fairies, or they are fairies, I don't know. But basically just that opening scene I thought was really well done. And to be completely honest, at the end of it, after she turns around, after taking the pictures and starts to leave, I honestly thought that was the last we were going to see of her. Like the next time that we see her, that she was going to be dead and Torchwood would be investigating it. But the direction they went with this episode with her was by far superior than what I thought was going to happen. So yeah, just that opening scene with Estelle was just really, really good. Moving on from there, my second favorite part of this episode was that we find out that Jack does in fact sleep. Now I know some of the commenters mentioned that, and I think actually at least one of you said that in the next episode you might find out something different, and obviously we did. Jack does sleep, or at least he dozes off for a little bit and has nightmares, or at least that's the way that it seemed in this episode. But it was cool to see that at least he does sleep, so it's like he wasn't being entirely truthful. So it may be more of a deal where he doesn't have to sleep, but he can if he wants to. Just kind of a guess on my part anyway. But moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode, it kind of spreads over the span of several parts of it, but a character who I don't care to figure out the name they gave him in the casting, but I'm just going to call him Creepy McPedopants. Pedo meaning pedophile, but yes. Creepy McPedopants gets slammed, then stalked by the fairies, and then choked to death. Or before that, actually, they kind of torture him with the flower petals, and then later he gets choked to death with those flower petals. And on one hand, it was really creepy and gruesome the way that it all went about. But considering who the character was and his entire motivation for what he was doing, which is being a convicted pedophile of small girls, didn't feel sorry for him at all. Did not feel sorry for that character. The way he went down was just pure justice in my eyes. Even if it is fictional. So yeah, Creepy McPedopants, bye-bye. Major favorite part of this episode. But my next favorite part of the episode is the mention of Jack's father, and getting a little bit more information on Jack's past, and really just, well, throughout the episode, his relationship with Estelle, just learning more about his past. I'm repeating myself, but I don't care. I just absolutely love the way they did that, because I was thinking at first that, okay, maybe she did know Jack's actual father, which wouldn't make a ton of sense, since Jack was from what century was it? Like the 30th century or something along those lines. So, I mean, I was kind of conflicted, but when it's revealed that obviously it's not his father, it was actually him from back then, I really like that. And the way that Estelle talked about him was like, he has his father's walk, he has his father's smile, or was it eyes? Well, whatever it was, just like, she saw so much of Jack's father in Jack. So I just really, really like that aspect of this episode. My next favorite part of the episode was Moses the cat. Because Moses is adorable, and I love cats. I'm a bit worried by the fact that we don't actually see any more of Moses after Estelle dies, which actually just dawned on me. But I don't know, who knows? Well, he wasn't getting rained on, so maybe Moses is out there alive somewhere. I don't know. Maybe he'll turn up at Torchwood headquarters one day, and Jack will be confused. I don't know. But anyway, yes. Moses the cat, adorable. Moving on from there. My next favorite part, which is definitely one of those that saying it's a favorite doesn't feel appropriate, but it's when Estelle sees the truth of the fairies. And unfortunately, Jack is too late to save her. Just that scene was beautiful. Maybe that's not the right way to put it, but just seeing the way Jack, seeing how sad he was when he came upon her body, is just the way that was acted it was absolutely beautiful. It was well executed, and I legitimately felt sad. Like, I kept thinking in my mind as she's getting rained on and seemingly drowned, or I thought maybe they were pulling the air out of her like Jack said that they could. However it happened, like I kept thinking, oh my god, are they going to get there in time? Are they going to get there in time? Oh no, she's going to die, isn't she? She's going to die, but maybe they'll get there in time. But clearly not, unfortunately. And it was legitimately an emotional scene when we do see her passed away, and Jack's just pure sadness over losing her, which is in complete contrast to how much he smiled when he when he did see her the first time, or when they went to her little showing where she had all those pictures. It was like a character that, for being so short-lived, just grew a wonderful attachment to her because of her attachment to Jack, who I have a longer attachment to, and I guess us as viewers kind of do as well. So yeah, that was just, it was so sad, but again, just a wonderful, beautifully acted portion of that episode, yes. But anyway, moving on from there, my next favorite part, and for different reasons, the troop train. Just Jack's recollection of that, and then the silence. That is something out of a horror movie. Something wonderfully executed out of a horror movie. Like, had the episode, like, if there had been no voiceover from Jack at all, but it had just been that scene, and we got to know those men on that train a little bit, and then just all of a sudden, it's like you hear these fluttering wings, we don't know what they are, and then all of a sudden, just silence. It gave me chills then, and it gives me chills right now. That is just... it's horror movie gold. It's horror story gold, really. And that's actually something I'll touch on more here in a little bit, but just that segment right there was amazing. But moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode is when Gwen and Reese get home for Reese's very, very brief appearance in this episode, and see that there's been a break-in, or as we know, the Fairies have broken into the house. And I kind of expected something like that, but what made that scene for me more so, other than just the spread around flower petals, was the fact that there was that little rock formation, which doesn't really get explained per se, but still, that scene right there, I found very interesting, and I wish they had delved into it a little bit more. But the way Gwen reacts to it, especially when Jack is over there, her frustration and her fear, that was another part of it that was excellently done, because not a lot of characters, or at least not main characters in a show, really put together the things like that. It's like, she always separated work life from her personal life, and now, quite literally, work came home and destroyed her house, or ransacked the house, I guess you would say. So yeah, just that whole segment right there was just excellently done. But moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode, and I kind of condensed this because I had a lot of different points that I was going to say were kind of favorites, but I guess it kind of boils down to Jasmine's friends. And I think one of the biggest parts being the little dialogue between the mom and Jasmine about her friends. And the mom seeing that clearly something is going on here. Something strange is going on. But she's a kid, so it could very well be it's just her imagination. So yeah, and extending from that, just when the different points at which the fairies appear, whether it's to shake up the pedophile guy or to scare the little girls that had been bullying Jasmine, which I kind of thought they deserved. I'm glad they didn't die, but I felt that they did deserve a good spook, little brats. But yeah, just Jasmine's friends. And the fairies in general in this episode are just all kinds of creepy. But anyway, moving on from there. This is one of those where I kind of feel weird about saying it's a favorite, but the stepdad. Now, at first, I didn't think there was much wrong with him. He's just a stepdad trying to do good. But then we get the scenes of him really talking down to Jasmine, kind of making her feel like trash. And what was the line? No wonder your dad got out of here. He must have seen it coming. And I didn't like him at that point, as it was. But then we have the scene where he just straight out smacks her in the face. And it was at that moment that I'm just like, screw it, let the guy die. I don't care about him anymore. Like, at least before, there could have been a little bit of, okay, well, he's kind of a jerk, but he could still possibly be redeemed if he changes up at the end. Nope, just flat out douchebag, slaps the kid in the face, tries to act like nothing happened. Screw you, buddy, you're dead, and I'm glad about it. And I know maybe that's not the most popular opinion as far as wanting the monsters to kill someone who is just a stepdad, but I don't care. That kind of stuff, when it comes to shows, I don't care. He's dead. Doesn't matter. douchebag's gone. So yeah, he died. That was my favorite part. But anyway, my next favorite part was almost an annoyance. But the fairies and their digital graphicness, yes, the graphics aren't very good, but the way they were designed and the way they looked in broad daylight, they looked like the aliens from Signs. And I don't know if you've ever seen Signs. I know some people love the movie. I used to love it. But the last time I saw it, I didn't really care for it. It felt really hokey. And ever since I saw the Nostalgia Critics review of Signs, the aliens make me crack up every time now. And if you've seen his review, you'll know why. Go look it up if you want to check it out. It's Nostalgia Critic Signs. It's a really good review. But, yeah, just every time I saw them on screen, especially with the close-ups, it was just like, it's the aliens from Signs. So yeah, I know it's a weird thing to have as a favorite, but like I said, the graphics and the designs of them was going to be an annoyance, but nope, the fact that they look like the aliens from Signs and made me laugh because of that, just, you know, a nice little toss onto the favorite parts chart. Cat's just made a noise. I might edit that out, or maybe not. Anyway, moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode, and it might be controversial, I don't know, but Jack's choice at the end. The choice he makes to let Jasmine go. To let her go and be with the fairies. And I can understand why people were mad with him. I can understand why they reacted that way. But I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't have made the same choice. Because you think about it, these creatures, as Jack says at the very beginning, they don't know that much about them. They're sort of this weird cross of supernatural with alien life, with, I guess, kind of human life from almost the beginning of time. It's just like, there's some pretty powerful freaks here. So, considering the threat they made, that if they didn't allow Jasmine to go with them, that they would kill everyone, basically, I can't say I wouldn't have made the same choice. Because yes, it's unfortunate that the woman lost her daughter, and that was incredibly sad. The woman's acting kind of questionable, but all the same, the emotion was there. And I honestly would have made the same choice. If it's a choice between one little girl who at that point clearly wants to go with the fairies, whether it's Stockholm Syndrome or whatever it may be, versus the entire planet getting wiped out, the greater good. And I know not everyone really likes that, and it's kind of an excuse, but it's that's the way I think of it. It's like, it's for the greater good, for the best of humanity, that the world not go extinct, you know? So yeah, Jack's choice, one of my favorite parts of this episode. And then finally, the picture at the end. And I'm pretty... correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard the fluttering wings in there at that time. And I can only assume that it was the fairies that put the image on screen, unless Gwen pressed something and I didn't notice. But as she zoomed in on that one fairy and we see Jasmine's face, that gave me chills. As she started to zoom in, I thought that's probably what was going on, but it wasn't until we zoom in and we see just this photo, but it's like, this perfectly defined facial features of the little girl in this fairy. It was honestly pretty terrifying for me. It was just like the concept of that being like the similar concepts have been used in other horror movies, but for some reason using it in this episode just really worked, or it was executed in a more effective way than some movies do, to be completely honest. Again, at least from my perspective. So yeah, so those are all my favorite parts. As I said before, I do have, I guess it's technically 2 annoyances, but I kind of boil it into one in the end. And it's this. Why did they kill Estelle? And why did they break into Gwen and Reese's house? Why? I think the explanation for Estelle is that she was getting too close to them. But at the same time, it seemed like they had more malicious intent toward people that hurt Jasmine, or people that offended Jasmine, or in the case of creepy McPedopants and the stepdad, people that intended to hurt her. So the fact that Estelle died, or that they killed her so friggin' maliciously, it doesn't make entire sense to me. Maybe, like, if I go back and rewatch it, maybe there is some mention of they attack people that get too close. That could be the case, which, again, it still bothers me in context of the plot of this episode and the way that the fairies are acting otherwise, but I can kind of get that. But then that still brings me to, why did they break into Gwen and Reese's place? Why did they tear everything apart there and leave the little circle? Again, I mean, that was one of my favorite parts of the episode, the fact that they did break in, but why? What's the point of that? It's like Gwen is there with the rest of Torchwood just as much. Well, they're all there together. So why would they specifically go after Gwen and not Jack or any of the others? It just doesn't make sense. Had they gone after some of the others, sure, I could have seen it then. I might have understood it a little bit more there. But no, it's just specifically Gwen's house. So yeah, that's those are my major gripes about this episode. Nitpicks in the end, I guess. But they still just stood out to me, especially after the episode ended. What stood out most to me with Estelle was when the fairies said, we'll kill the rest of the humans, like that guy, your friend, and all that. Again, it's just like they used her in context, but why? Why did Estelle have to do with it at all? Like, I don't think she ever even saw the little girl. So yeah, I mean, I could question that forever, and I'm sure it's just a because answer. But it still bothers me nonetheless. So, okay, those are my annoyances. If you all have any of your own favorites or annoyances with this episode that you'd like to voice, please do let me know what they are. And if you have any counterpoints maybe to, especially the annoyances, but, whether some of my favorites or annoyances, feel free to voice them in the comments down below. Excuse me. But moving on from there, again, not knowing the names of the tracks, the music in this episode that caught my attention most often was just the pretty and yet eerie little chimes of music that would play they were so closely associated with Jasmine and the fairies themselves. Just that very haunting, twinkling music. Just felt it was used really well, and it got mixed into some of the more intense bits. Not necessarily the chimes, but the tones that went along with it. So yeah. In the end, it's like that part of the music / tracks within this episode. I don't think I'm making any sense, am I? Probably not. But you probably know what I'm talking about, so we'll leave it at that. Moving on from there. I do actually have a couple of quotes of the episode. One of which might be fairly obvious. I don't know. But the first quote of the episode I have to say is one that just caught my attention immediately. And it's when Estelle says, "That's what his father used to say." And immediately I'm just like, his father? And Gwen acts accordingly. She's just like, his father? Really? Or, well, she doesn't say that. That was more me. But, yeah, just like the way that's said and just the questions it opens up at the time was just... It was so attention-catching that it basically had to be at least one of my quotes of the episode. But my last quote of the episode actually is apparently a quote from a poem called "The Stolen Child" by William Butler Yeats. If I mispronounced it, I apologize. But it's at the very end when we see the picture and the zooming in. And it comes from the Fairies, I guess, reciting it. Yeah, because they said it elsewhere in the episode as well. And I'm not going to get the inflection correct, so I apologize, but... "Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand." Just... it encapsulates... Honestly, everything about this episode feels like they've saw this passage, or maybe they saw the whole poem itself, and they built the episode around that, or at least the theme of the creatures around that. So, yeah, that line right there is very nicely done. Nicely executed throughout the episode. I like that they only say, I think they only say, "Come away, O human child," and repeat that several times through the episode until the end. They might have used a little bit more, but if so, I don't really recall. So yeah, those are my quotes of the episode. If you have any of your own, as always, please do let me know what they are down below. I'd love to hear what other quotes you can come up with that were your favorites. Other than that, didn't really get any theories from this episode. Well, I guess you could say I had some questions as far as what my annoyances were, but yeah, as far as an overall theory goes, nothing really from this episode, just that I'm looking forward to finding out more about Jack and finding out more about his past that we didn't get in Doctor Who, and we'll probably get as the show goes along, I assume. But going back to my overall thoughts on the episode, I really, really liked it. Like I said in the beginning, I feel like this is one of the strongest episodes overall on the show so far, in my opinion. And one of the reasons is they took horror elements and just utilized them so well. Like, there are certain parts of this episode that could have been seen as very corny, particularly the graphics around the fairies when they're in full form. But the music, the way the music is done, the admittedly pretty creepy kid aspect, the voices, the use of the fluttering wings, and possibly most of all, the train scene and the silence. elements like that, and then others sprinkled throughout this episode, just made for a wonderfully horrifying episode, which is strange when you consider that the monster or creature of the week is fairies. So, yeah, I love the episode. That's all I can really say about it at this point. It was really well done. If you disagree, let me know what your thoughts are, but for me, just the horror elements and the way they're utilized in this episode just work phenomenally for me. But alright everyone, that's it for today's episode. Next time I will be talking about Countryside, which is very cleverly misspelled, as in just like country, and then CIDE, as in like homicide, or other sides, that genocide, yes, that kind of deal. Kind of creepy and foreboding, don't you think? Sorry. But before I go, I want to say thank you to every last one of you Kenvians out there for subscribing to the channel. Even those of you that aren't subscribed, if you're just watching this episode right now, thank you so much for that. All of your all support and just feedback and the wonderful community you all have made and that continues to grow around this channel. I appreciate it and appreciate you all from the bottom of my heart. Those of you that are patrons for this channel, I thank you all so much for dedicating some of your money to this channel to help me continue to grow and to help me continue to try and make this channel even more than what it already is. Here are all the patrons that are currently with the channel right now. Again, thank you all so much. If you would like to maybe consider becoming a patron, you can check it out in the link down below to go check that out. And whether you do or don't, it doesn't matter. If you're just here to say hi, leaving a comment, or just watching the video, it's more than I can ask for. So again, thank you all very much, and I will see you all next time for the next episode. Until then, Alonzi!